What's going on, everybody? If you guys don't know me, I'm Austin Holloman. I'm from Texas. I'm a world traveler, and I've decided to settle here in Nairobi, Kenya, as my permanent home. I plan to live here for the rest of my life, or as far as it looks right now, I don't plan to leave at all. Now, traveling around the world, I went to 7 other African countries, and I've dealt with a lot of ignorant people around Africa, and I've dealt with a lot of ignorant Black Americans as well. One thing that I noticed that colonization, white supremacy, whatever you want to call it, has done to black people is no matter where you go in the world, people that look like me have an identity crisis. And that includes all of Latin America, especially them, South Africa, but in specific, let's say Brazil, South Africa, the United States, not so much in Africa, but we'll get back to them besides South Africa. But there's other parts of Africa too that they have an identity crisis. You guys would know that already if you've been paying attention to how these people talk. Now, one thing that some black people and even some West Africans or Africans in general like to say to people that look like me is, oh, well, like my people were not descendants of slaves. The white people lied to us. We're not all slaves. We were already here whenever the Europeans got here. But I'm gonna get to that point in a second. But they like to say, oh, my people were not descendants of slaves. And that may be true for some people. Like, for example, if you were part of one of the tribes that were not sent to the United States or somewhere in the Americas to become a slave, yeah, maybe your direct ancestry was not a slave. But when people are saying that, and Africans and Black Americans say this, let's say when Africans, whenever they say that as if, oh, like, oh, my people were not descendants of slaves, as if they're right here. And because I'm a Black American and I can go back maybe 150 years ago and there's a slave in my family, I'm somehow down here. When really, let's talk about that. So you're up here because you're not a descendant of a slave and I'm down here, correct? Okay, so let's say you're from somewhere in West Africa and you were part of one of the tribes, your people were part of one of the tribes where they sent my ancestry over to Louisiana to become a slave, right? Didn't they fuck y'all over too? Like they were like, hey, we're gonna help you with this tribe. We're gonna get rid of them. Okay, now it's your turn. We're gonna come to your shit, tell you what you can and cannot do in your own country. We're gonna rape your women. We're gonna slaughter a lot of y'all too. I mean, what is the difference? In my opinion, you're still a nigga to them. So, I mean, what's the difference between my people were not descendants of slaves? Colonization was not really that much different. The only difference between a slave and a person living in a colony somewhere in Africa is that Africans, for the most part, got to keep their traditions and their way of life, while we had to forcibly adapt to the point where we don't even know where we came from, or we don't have any, like, if you came from a Nigerian tribe and you were sent to the Americas, your lineage more than likely doesn't have any more, y'all don't practice any Nigerian customs or anything like that. That's really the only difference. And you were not bought and sold. But I mean, there's several pictures of Africans all around the continent carrying white men on whatever that little carriage, it's like a little bed. And it's moved not by a horse, but by manpower. So there's people holding it, and there'll be 4 or 5 people holding one person on the carriage. Do you think those motherfuckers got paid to carry his ass? I don't think so. I really don't think so. So what's the fucking difference? You're a slave, you probably just wasn't bought and sold, and you just got to stay home. So what's the difference? And this is where there's like a divide and conquer tactic that the Europeans have used all around the world to colonize people. And you can see amongst black people in Africa and in Americas, it still lives to this day, to the point where we have some fucking idiots that think that they're above one or the other because they were not descendants of slaves. Go look at the people in the Congo during colonization when they would go to the forest to go look for rubber, right? I'm pretty sure they didn't get paid for that shit. You know why I don't think they got paid for it? Because at some point, if they didn't do enough work, they would chop their fucking hand off. Go look at, there's photos of soldiers from Belgium chopping Congolese natives' hands off for for what they were there for, right? So what's the difference between that and a slave getting his ass whipped against a tree on his back? There's no difference. So Thinking one is better than the other is a complete ignorance and it's bullshit. And it's so annoying. And people think that I noticed this actually when I went to West Africa and when I was in Ghana, and they were, this is online though, and I'm not saying that it won't happen in person either, but there was several people from several West African countries putting it as if they were above and I was below, okay? I just didn't give a damn, but I've been seeing this for too long, and I think I gotta say something about it now. I've even seen some light-skinned half-breed girl. She's white. I think her mother was white, and her dad was Nigerian. And she's like, yeah, I'm not actually Black American. My people weren't descendants of slaves. You're a half-breed. I mean, what bathroom did you go? Did you go to the whites only bathroom in 1930 or the black? I don't know. I wasn't alive then. Somebody comment which one she would have been in. Still a nigga if you ask me. So a lot of Black Americans like to say, oh, and this is so stupid. It's the same thing that some Africans do, but it's on the reverse side now. Now the Black Americans do it. They say, oh, well, the white people lied to us. There were already Black people here, which has been confirmed. Christopher Columbus said when he went to Brazil that there were dark-skinned people there. Where do you think they came from? Okay, just think about where you think they may have came from. But they'll say, oh, we were not slaves. We were already here. The Native Americans that Europeans are referring to were actually Black people, which my family lineage actually does have a feather-headed Native American in it. A few of them, actually. But you don't see me running around here saying this crazy shit. I've seen some Black Americans sitting on podcasts with feathers on their head looking like a goddamn fool. Sitting with these feathers on their head, talking about, oh, my people weren't descendants of slaves. In translation, what they're saying is the Africans that they brought over to the United States was like, oh, those niggas was slaves, we wasn't. Okay, so you're the Native Americans, right? So your people were already here, and they were slaves, and you not like them. Even though you consider yourself Black, and I'm trying to figure out where those Black people in your lineage came from the first place, dumbass. But anyway, what did they do to those Native Americans? They wrote about that part too. They not gonna lie about what they did to them. They came to their shit, slaughtered them, raped the women, made them do things like walk the Trail of Tears, and said, hey, this is ours now. You're gonna go live over here. So again, you're trying to say like, oh, my people weren't slaves. Like that was those niggas. Right? So you're a native Black American featherhead, and you think you're up here, and these African slaves that they brought are down here, when really, in reality, the Native Americans made up 100% of the population of the United States when the Europeans got there, right? They make up 1.12% today. So how the hell do you think you're up here and somebody's down there? That's why I got a problem with this. It's so ignorant, I don't even understand it. It's so stupid. I've even heard some so-called FBAs claim that, oh, like, we're different than them. Look at the sparkle in the eye. So you're really gonna justify saying, let's just say this shit. You don't want to have any African connection. You don't want to be Black at all. Okay, that's really what I'm starting to hear from the Black American side with people that say this. Now I'm telling you, I know for a fact, that I have Native American heritage in my lineage. Now I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not running around here saying like we weren't descendants of slaves. I don't think the Native Americans had it any better. They slaughtered them and basically depleted their damn population. I mean, I'm not understanding. But I do know that the African slaves did intermarry with Native Americans, and that's why a lot of Black Americans do have a different look. But I'm not saying that erases the African heritage. I mean, the fact that I've moved to Africa, and I've been to 7 countries, I've seen people all over in every country I've been to that look exactly like somebody I knew very well or grew up with in the States. I went to Rwanda, and I'm like, damn, that looks like my classmate from the 10th grade. Looks exactly like him. This is in Rwanda. I went to Uganda. This guy that I used to cut his hair. I seen a guy that looked literally exactly like him. It looked like all I had to do was call his name and he was gonna look it. It wasn't no difference. I believed it was him almost for a second. I've seen that here in Kenya. I've seen a woman that looked exactly like my mother, in Senegal, and I also had a white French grandmother. Senegal was colonized by the French. And then it just so happened when I get there, it's a woman that resembles my mother exactly. So I don't know what it is about some black Americans that don't want to, they have some sort of, it's not that they're disconnected, it's that they want to be disconnected. And again, it's another divide and conquer that doesn't go away. But anyway, some of these FBAs claim that they're not African because they got a fucking sparkle in their eye. I got a sparkle in my eye too. I have bright eyes. You don't hear me saying that stupid shit. Now, there's other countries that don't, in Africa, that don't consider themselves black. They have an identity crisis here as well. For example, there's some places in East Africa that are on the continent of Africa with black folks darker than me that don't say that they're African or black. I don't know what that's about. You got people in South Africa that literally don't know what black is. You got people in Brazil. There's some black people that would call themselves Morena or whatever. I don't give a fuck. All of y'all are black to me. So there's a disconnect all throughout the world when it comes to being black. Here's how I know that there should be no division between the diaspora and Africans. When I come here, I don't feel out of place at all, right? I've been to Romania. I remember I went to the mall to meet this one chick to go on a date. I swear to God, I was the only black person. It wasn't an Asian, it wasn't a Latino, Indian, nothing. It was literally just me and Romanians. And everybody was looking at me like a lion was in the mall. Okay, that doesn't happen here in Kenya. Whenever I went to see this girl, we went out to eat, and she's all hugged up and kissing on me, and there's a Romanian woman. Literally, she stared at me like this for about 5 minutes straight. That doesn't happen here in Africa. Why? Because we blend in the best in the world in Africa, okay? We blend in the best in the world, and we're way closer to these people than we are to people in Europe or Asia, where a lot of y'all like to go. I've been, I don't need to go there. The people here don't, if you go to Africa as a white person, you do not get the same treatment as you would if you were black, okay? That treatment of looking all crazy. Now, white people, I mean, the Africans don't really do that, but they look at them as a lick heavily when they get here. So they're nowhere near as comfortable when they come here. And in Africa, it seems that there's only two types of ethnicities, white and black. I've had a Puerto Rican guy come here. He's obviously not Caucasian or he's not white, but, or let's say totally European. He's a Puerto Rican and he looks like it. But when he got here, he was white. And that's why I say Africa is the best place for a black person to move to. You get the treatment that you would want. White people have a completely different experience. So I don't know what a lot of y'all's problem is, especially black Americans that are all online trying to deny wanting to be connected to Africa. But you look ignorant as shit. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I love you guys. I'll see you guys next time.